Hello, YouTube, and hello, Instagram. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to today's conversation. Are you feeling okay, Nehana? I'm okay, guys. Oh my God, I'm out of water. Help! Okay, so there are a couple of things that I want to cover, and I am almost afraid that I might have to. The more the merrier. I'll drink both of them. Thank you so much. So there are two things that I need to address from the last video. So the gift of the lesson that you need to learn, that is, um, if you don't learn the lesson the first time, you will have to continue to get this lesson over and over again. All right, cool. Cool. We're good with that. The second thing is rich men. I don't know why I wrote that down, but there was something in my last video about rich men that I said that was really, excuse me, that was really, it stood out to me, It was something that I think, that we can actually talk about, how rich men interact with women in comparison to just regular men, I guess. And the fact that this gaslighting situation is your fault. And I know that a lot of people don't want to hear that. It seems like you're victimizing the victim. And this woman has, or this man has gone through so much. And you're putting them in a situation where now they have to now carry the blame for the treatment that they have received when they have no control over the person that's treating them in this way. That is true. That is true. You don't have control over a person's behavior. And ultimately, the way a person behaves is their own responsibility. Ultimately, also, or I'd like to add to that, the fact that um, your response is something that you have control over. Your response is something that you have control over, and that's why when you are responding in a particular way or giving energy to this, like arguing or trying to figure out why they are this way that they are, that is the time that you need to acknowledge what you can do and what you can't do. So what you can't do is change them, but what you can do is change you. And changing you might simply mean that you get out of the situation, put the situation on hold, or you end the situation. In my case, I'd like to also add to that. So why is it your fault? For me, it was my fault because I was being disingenuous to this person. If any of you know me, I dated a lot. And like I talk about how men can like pick up on this kind of behavior, that when you're being disingenuous, and that affects your relationship, because if they get the sense that you're not committed to them, then they really can't 100% commit to you. And if they can't commit to you, then that has to be addressed on your part and together. So, like with me and my ex, sis, um, wow. It's really bad. It was really bad because I had plenty of examples where I could say I was just a mess, like the whole scene was a mess. Like I was telling these people, I was telling my girlfriends, oh my God, I'm so in love with X or Y or Z. But um I wasn't focusing like a laser on that relationship, because if he did something to piss me off or to make me feel rejected, then I would just find a sub. And a sub is just a substitute guy, a rebound guy, right? And the rebound guy's position would, for whatever reason, in my situation would always end up to be like, he don't want to be the rebound guy no more. He want to be the main guy. Like, so that made me realize that men also have feelings, and men also, they get emotionally involved, and that the rules are not the same for women, right? Because when you're a woman and you're in a relationship and you want to be exclusive, then that's cool. But if you don't want to be exclusive, that seems as unusual. And for whatever that, I think that that makes men, that puts certain men off, and it makes men more competitive. And everybody thinks that they can be the one, you know? So that was one major problem, and part of the reason why that was my fault. And I talk about this in Patreon, and to a bigger degree, that how do I put this? It's not so much that it's your fault. Well, actually, yeah, it is your fault. Hi, Moosey. It is your fault, actually, because like this kind of behavior in real life, like we want to act like people are a certain way in like how they are in movies, like, oh, the guy gets hurt and then he has something really smart to say, and then the woman realizes the error of her ways and she apologizes, and everybody's together in an hour and 45 minutes, however long the movie lasts. And it's not like that. People are petty. And when people get in their feelings, like when my ex got in his feelings, it was like, that's what caused the gaslighting, because that's what he did when he was hurt. He would gaslight. And so many people behave in that way. And I'm not saying that that is a good reason to treat a person like shit, but that's definitely what happens in relationships. And so, how do we take the higher road and behave differently? By being honest with ourselves, what I'm capable of doing, what you're capable of doing. Like, I had to be honest about not being able to accept rejection, and accepting rejection came from abandonment, and abandonment came from issues from way back. But that, I couldn't get to that place unless I started to be honest with myself about what it is I was doing. The hard part of honesty is being honest about your contribution to the things that you have done in your relationship that are also beneath you. Like I talked about, this behavior is beneath you that you are experiencing from your partner. We also act in a way that is beneath us. And so in Patreon, I give some real hardcore, thrilling, juicy examples about what my story was and why my ex had just looked at me like, this is the mess. Like, you are a mess. And while I love you very much, I cannot be with you. I cannot be committed to you because you're a mess. Like, this is too much. And so many of us women put ourselves in a situation where we're like, we are a total mess. And we are in a relationship where the man knows that you're a mess, and we can't seem to get what we want because we and him, both of you, know that there is no commitment to be had because you have not dealt with some of the things that you need to deal with in order to get to the level that you need to get to be somebody's girlfriend, wife, significant other. Um, and so I also want to talk about being afraid to ask what the status is. Like, why are you afraid to ask, are you guys together or not? So, what I've noticed is that when you are when you're in a relationship and you can't ask the person, or you're afraid to ask the person, oh, why am I sorry, are we together or not? Diese Kinder. My kids are always doing some craziness. I feel like I have boys. Like, really, they act like boys. All of a sudden, I hear boom. Oh my goodness, help me, Jesus. Is everything okay? Yeah, and then they say, yeah, right. All right, so what was I saying? I was saying that your life is a mess, It's a mess because you don't have your stuff together, and he knows you don't have your stuff together, so he hasn't been able to pop the question. I just asked if everything was okay. Good. Freut mich. I'm still working. Anyways, so guys, um, you are a mess, and I can give you some examples of a mess, right? Like, this might be a little bit adult. Some of you have baby daddies. I know some people probably don't even know what that is. You have kids. It's for somebody you're not married to, um, or you have several children for several men that you're not married to. And these are, unfortunately, these are some of the things that men look at, like they're not like keen on having these kinds of serious committed relationships with women who have children for other men. Um, in my situation, it was a combination of both that and being married to somebody who I was no longer in a relationship with. And I feel like instead of looking at these things and saying, "Oh, Nehanda, your life is a mess and you need to clean this up. You need to get your mind right and stop this and, get your life in order." I just kept blaming him and saying he is abusive. And I'm not saying he had a good reason to be abusive, but like I said before, when you're in a relationship with someone and they are hurt because of something that you did, this may be one of the responses that you get. Where instead of saying, "Oh, you hurt me," because like who really talks like that? Nobody does, unless they're like high value. Um, Instead of saying, "I'm hurt and you hurt me," they will just say, "Well, you're stupid," or "You're a mess," or "I can't be with somebody like you," or "You're not a lady," or whatever it is that they'll come for you. And is that okay? Is that good? No. Is that the norm? Is that what usually happens? Yes. And so this channel is committed to giving us better tools to handle our emotions so that we have better, productive, less toxic relationships. One of the things that I talked about in the last video, which was denying the receipts and saying that saying that if somebody comes to you and you say that, "Oh, I never said that." Let's say your a significant other says to you, "Oh, I never said that." And then you pull up your cell phone and it's like, "Yes, you did. It's right here. It's screenshot, receipts." Brace yourself. If you're getting in a situation where you're screenshot and then you show the person the screenshot and then they're like, "That's not me." They even deny the screenshot that you have, the receipts that you actually wrote. Oh my God. That is a definite red flag. Like, um, or they may say something like, "I don't understand why you're being so petty." Maybe they might not be able to deny the actual written proof because it's there and there's nothing they can do. There's no out. They might then turn it around on you and be like, "Oh my gosh, like, why are you making this such a big deal? Yeah, okay, I said it. Jesus, you're so petty. You're so nitpicky and so this and that, which is something that I experienced a lot, which is, it was not fun. That was not good times. But one of the things that I learned about that was when somebody asks you, brace yourself now, this is for free. When somebody asks you to, when somebody says to you, "Oh, you're being petty," and you can just ask them, "Well, are you saying that my emotions or how I feel about the situation is not valuable? It's not serious? You saying it's not serious?" And they may say yes or no. Um, there's a strong possibility that they might reconsider. They might reconsider their argument at that point and maybe begin to listen to you. But bear in mind that a gaslighter, a traditional gaslighter, does not want to accept responsibility for their actions. They do not want to look bad. They do not want to be wrong. And this is why um, the alter ego person, the person that's being gaslighted, is in a very hard situation, because your position, or my position at least, was that I wanted to look like the victim, instead of accepting the responsibility of knowing that I was also wrong by being disingenuous, lying, and not wanting to confront this person, because I did not feel that I was deserving of, um, I wasn't deserving of the kind of relationship that I say that I wanted. And once that changes, interestingly enough, I'd like to retract deserve, because a lot of us feel like we deserve to have a relationship, but none of us actually deserve to have a relationship. A relationship is something that you work at, and for women especially, you get whatever it is that you work for, because yeah, you get what you work for, because a lot of us are not willing to do the work, so we end up getting trash. We end up getting the gaslighters and the abusers and the cheaters and the liars. Because if you actually want to be with a good man who is supportive, who is amazing, who's honest, who is top level, you kind of have to already be those things. Because those men have their pick of the litter. That means that they can pick anyone they want. And you got to give them good reason to pick you. If you have issues, like I was a mess, I had problems with honesty and a lot of other issues, then I was subject to dealing with these type of men, because I wasn't at the level that I am now, where I could actually say, okay, well, not now, because I'm already married and I'm off the market, but I had to get to a place when I was in the market that said to a man, okay, this is a lady, this is a woman, this is somebody that I want to take home to my mother, this is somebody that I want to commit to. Um, that requires a certain level of um, growth. And when you don't have that kind of growth, these kinds of behaviors like gaslighting is something that you're subject to. So I hope that this has been useful for you guys on Instagram. Let me just take Instagram off so we can switch over to YouTube and the video. Yes. Yeah. So anyways, gaslighting part 3. So yeah, um, it's really interesting actually, because I really feel like when we got back together, and I talk about this more in more detail, I would have started to acknowledge some of the crazy things that I was doing that was causing these breakups, right? But it never occurred to me that I could have behaved in a different way. What did occur to me later on, and we'll discuss this in further detail later on in some of the other podcasts, what did occur to me was that maybe it probably wasn't that deep. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you get turned around in so many circles, and there's like no one who is telling you the fucking truth. Jesus Christ. My friends, like I talked about in Patreon, my friends were just like the worst. My mother, I love her to death, gave the worst advice. She gave some good advice, but some of the advice that she gave was awful, you know? And I had no discernment. So this is one of the things that women who want to be wives, this is something that you kind of have to be astute to. You have to have some level of discernment, grace, and virtue. I did not have any of that. And there was no amount of tact in class that was going to teach me that. And I don't understand like what I finally did to. We're going to talk about that in the next video. We're going to stick to honesty, integrity, and who do you listen to? The people I was listening to, I were listening to, were not the people that were giving me the best advice in relationships. I'm sorry. This was just not their expertise for various reasons. This was a different kind of man. He was a businessman, an entrepreneur. Um, there was another man who had come into some money, who had some also he had some issues. I was not into him like that. Oh God, but the fact of the matter is that I was a mess. And a big part of the issue was that I felt, real talk guys, I felt like I could play the game like how men play the game, open court, open field, and just do whatever I want, not understanding at that time that the rules of relationships as it pertains to how women and men behave, regardless of whether what I think or what you think, the rules are just not the same for men as they are for women. It's just the way it is, and we may think, we may want to believe that they are, but they're not. And so that created a lot of strife in my life. Like, it was a big mess with everyone that I was with. I don't have any exes that talk to me. Any. Like, none. Zero. All of my exes hate me, and it's because of this defining factor of who I am or who I was. And so I just want to be very clear as it comes to honesty, who you listen to, because I feel like when it comes to who you listen to, single women keep women single, or women keep women single because they have no idea what men want. And that you can't play the game the way the men play game. You can't. You just can't. You got to be honest with them. And when I was finally able to be honest with myself and tell the truth to those around me, yeah, okay, there were a lot of people that were hurt. A lot of people that were hurt. And I finally was able to see, like, okay, I did this. And maybe if I had admitted that this was my fault early on and not covered up so much with so many lies and so much deceit and so much game playing, I would have had a fair shot in at least knowing what was actually possible in my relationships with the people that I said that I was in love with, because then at least then we could have a clear-cut conversation. Or I could have a clear-cut conversation with myself about how I really honestly feel, and know that just doing that is a great step in acknowledging and validating who I am and what I want, no matter what anybody else thinks. And I think that I really honestly, truly believe that that is the foundational reason that I ended up getting married, because I finally did that. I said to myself, this is what I really want. You may not be in that place or position, and I understand. I am unconditionally going to love whoever can step into that position. If it's not you, I understand. I'm going to be fine, and so will you. Don't hang your hat where you can't reach it. Goodbye. Sayonara. Just let him go, let him go, let him go. And believe and trust that if you let them go, or keep the door open, they'll stay. And if they go, then, no harm, no foul. Thank you for being honest. And you always have a friend in me. But when you manipulate and play and scheme and scam and do all these things, then it creates a sense of disingenuement. And I feel like disingenuement, is that a word? I don't think so. But men can pick this shit up. Like, men are not dumb. And I said this in Instagram in last Instagram's um broadcast, that like y'all have to really stop taking men for fools. Like, men are smart too. They also have their instincts and they can understand when they're being lied to. And this doesn't create a sense of security in wanting to be with you. And I think that once you're able to do that, and that brings a lot of peace to a man's life. And when you're not able to do that, that brings a lot of grief to everybody's life, because don't nobody know what to expect. You're like a walking time bomb. And so inner peace is very beautiful for that. I feel like that's really great. Did I talk about who do you listen to? Oh yeah. Um yeah. 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 If I had actually listened to some different women, or if I had just listened to my boyfriends and given them what they really wanted, because they're the ones who can tell you more or less directly what it is they want and what they don't want, instead of listening to women who are in their feelings, or bitter, or triggered, or both, or jealous, or want to be in your situation, I would have uncovered way more in my relationships than I did at the time. Um, so yeah, be careful of who you're listening to, on what authority they stand, what has been their experiences, and how the results of those experiences are manifested in their own lives. Specifically to marriage, like, I did not have any, besides my grandparents. I think those were, even my grandparents, so take with a grain of salt, because my grandmother had some issues with my grandfather. um, yeah, just listening to women who are happily married. I did that. I listened to women who were divorced, separated, who had regrets. And I think even those conversations and those stories were also helpful, because it made me see how big of a deal women make things that are not really that big a deal. And the alternative to that is to just be alone. And it might not seem like a big deal when you're 25 or 21 and you're cute and everybody's knocking on that door to get a chance. But when you're knocking on 30, 40, 50, and there are very less prospects, not as many prospects as they were back then you start to really see how lonely it is, and how how um how much pride can hurt a person's future. Um so yeah, be very careful. If I And also, is it that big a deal, right? Is it? I remember I gave a book to a friend of mine who was in a situation. This is why I say it's your fault. Alright? She was having this hard time with her boyfriend, grown ass man, and she and him were having some issues, anecdotally. And she came to me for advice, and I told her, leave him, you know? Of course, at that point, I was engaged. Yeah. And I gave her a book, and the name of the book was Men That Hate Women and the Women That Love Them, which is a perfect resource for this kind of behavior. I'm going to link the description. I'm going to link it in the description box below, so that you can understand in more detail what to look for. Um, she read one chapter of the book and had to give it back to me. She was just like, I can't read this, which was my initial response the first time I read the book personally, because it was pretty heavy, and it made me realize a lot. It made me look at myself in a way like, damn, am I so stupid? Like, ugh, like, are you really that woman that's like, oh my God, my husband's abusing me? Like, grow a pair, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about growing a pair. Do not fight a man's fight like a man. Fight like a woman, which is with grace and silence. Yeah, I like the silent treatment. No, I'm just kidding. Not no silent treatment here. Just just don't lose your temper. Don't lose your shit. It's not that big a deal. And if it is that big a deal, then you kind of want to make sure that you are acknowledging how triggered you are emotionally by this and distance yourself as much as possible from the situation for as long as possible, which is something that for me, if you don't do this, let me go on the other end of the spectrum. If you don't distance yourself from a person who has so much emotional hold on you, you will find that every single time, this is what used to happen to me, every single time you see this person, you are going to be shaking, palpitating, sweating, fidgeting, like you're going to be totally nervous and scared, like this person was the person who almost killed you. That's how deep emotional abuse is. And I literally had to tell myself, like, I had to look at him like he's nothing, like he's just a person, and imagine him as a child. This is just a child that grew up like a person, and he can't hurt me, and I'm over this situation. But I had to emotionally distance myself from that situation, um, by um, exposing myself to, first, unpacking in therapy, like exposing myself to what it was, not burying it, um not brushing it aside, but facing it and him head on. And I did that even up until my engagement, where I would just seek out situations and opportunities to be around him, so I wasn't so surprised and scared every time. I know this might seem like a little extreme, but that's what it was for me. um and then also, um like, have a clear understanding in myself as to what the abuse was doing to me, and say to myself, it's not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal. He's not a big deal. He's not important. It's just, this is just what it was, and it's no longer like that. I am now this person, and honesty really helped me to actually look at it like that. Like, I was a bad person too. I did things in the relationship that I should not have done. I also hurt him. Um, and and being in a situation that made me feel like I putting myself in a situation where I would not engage. I actually had to tell people, I do not want to hear about this person. Because people, for whatever reason, would come and tell me, oh, I saw him, and I saw him do with this or doing that or with this person, and I'm like, I don't want to hear about him or the situation with him at all, ever. And so once I was able to get to that level, I could start to heal. And once I could start to heal, I could start to recognize how much healing needed to take place. And I just became I became the person that I was always meant to be. And that is what I wish for everyone who is listening out there tonight. You may not deserve a husband or anything, but you do deserve to give yourself the gift, peace of mind. And you need to know that that peace of mind starts with your acknowledging and desire to have it. That can only happen if you take the first step to say no more. I allowed this behavior to go on in my life, and I will no longer allow this behavior to go on in my life. I am the one who makes the decisions on who treats me, how they treat me, and I'm going to change that now. This is not about right or wrong as much as it is about you and them. Because so long as you give the power to the person who's doing this to you power, you are forever forfeiting the right to the life that you say that you want. And once you are able to take back that power, you can now make decisions as to where and how you live. I'll let it sink in. I'm here giving these notes here from my bed, barely able to, give it with the oomph that I wanted to, but I didn't want to let another day go by without completing this part 3. So if you guys want to book a session and talk more in detail about some of these psychoses, again, yeah, I was definitely the worst. I was a mess. And part of that mess helped to create the chaos that was my relationship. Had I been a different person, I would have had a different outcome. And I really believe that if you're having a messy, toxic relationship that has gone on for more than 3 months, it is time for you to look at what you are doing that is making it toxic. And know that it's your fault if you stay. Sorry, not sorry. This is when I'm not here to coddle anybody. I'm not here to win friends and gain enemies. No, I'm not. I want to give you guys the truth that is so hard for people to hear. This ain't Barbie. You can't be everything. You have got to be honest, and you have got to know that you deserve more only when you believe and start to act like it. So, um, yeah, that's it for tonight, folks. Hope to see you guys again next time as our regular scheduled broadcast continues. Please like and subscribe. I see like a lot of people are viewing my videos, but they haven't subscribed. Come on, help the algorithm out, help a girl out,